Let's say that you're feeling stressed. You have a lot of incoming emails, you have a lot of incoming calls, and you just have a very large to-do list to do. Well, what can you do with this stress? You might drink some coffee to give yourself energy to deal with it. You might shut your phone off because you don't want to deal with that incoming call. Or you might just even ignore some of your work because you're feeling too overwhelmed to do everything. This way of dealing with stress is a normal human reaction. And chemical reactions can do things in order to deal with that stress as well. The way that chemical reactions deal with that stress is called Le Chatelier's principle. So we've already talked about equilibrium, right? When those rates are equal after some time has passed. What this principle says is if I put a stress on a chemical reaction, if I change something about the reaction so it's no longer at equilibrium, Le Chatelier's principle says that that chemical reaction will adjust or shift to oppose that change. Think of like living environment when things were at homeostasis, right? They were at a nice equilibrium. If I stress my homeostasis out, if I do something that changes homeostasis, my body will still try and maintain that equilibrium. Chemical reactions do the same thing. What are some ways that chemical reactions can get stressed out? Well, one way is changing the concentration. If I change the amount of reactant or product, that'll stress a concentration, or that'll stress a reaction out. If I change the temperature, right? If I change the amount of energy that I give it, that'll stress my reaction out. Or if I change the pressure or volume, that can also stress a reaction out. Either way, when we implement one of these stresses, it puts either my reactants or my products out of balance. And so what Le Chatelier's principle says is that reaction will shift to try and maintain that equilibrium or get back to that balance point, that purple dotted line. We're always trying to maintain a reaction back at equilibrium, where those forward rates and those reverse rates are the same. We saw this in the simulation we looked at earlier. Reactions that start at the same concentrations, right? Those concentrations will be equal, and those rates will be equal as well. But let's say I stress my reaction out by changing the concentrations on either side. We said that those rates will no longer be equal. And so what's going to happen is those concentrations will change and those rates will change until they are back at equal points. Right? We can see over time as this reaction progresses that those rates are starting to equal each other out. And because my forward rate and my reverse rate are at the same exact speed, eventually, even though I started with different numbers on both sides, at equilibrium, because of Le Chatelier's principle, I will get back to a point where they are equal. We also saw when we change those rates, even if I start at the same exact concentration, over time, my concentrations and my rates will change. Right? Le Chatelier's principle says we're trying to get back to that equilibrium, that equal point where my rates are the same. And so our rates will reach an equilibrium point even if our concentrations are not equal. That's just saying that Le Chatelier's principle that my equilibrium has been reached. We can also look at this specifically with chemical reactions. So I'll look at the reaction H2 plus I2 goes to 2HI. I have my H2 molecules here. I have my I2 molecules here. And on the right side, I have an HI molecule here. According to Le Chatelier's principle, we said that my rates will some point reach this point where they are at an equilibrium. Right? No matter what stress I put on the system, I will always get to a point where my rates equal each other. Right? So converting my H2 and my I2 in a forward reaction, that will always create an HI particle at the end. Right? And in my reverse reaction, I have those HI particles that are becoming H2 and I2 separately. Well, we said that a stress might be changing the concentration. So let's say I have more reactants and no products. Notice how the forward rate is faster than the reverse rate, but even at the end, we're still going to get to a point where we equal each other at equilibrium.